of other nation states who do have borders, who've decided that because of the oppression, the economic repression, and the inability to feed their families or achieve economic opportunity has caused them to come across our borders. And to even come across many borders to reach the United States, which can mean only one thing. The United States is obviously a very desirable destination for many people around the world because of liberty and freedom and economic opportunity and our culture, which is predicated upon the rule of law. We have a serious problem now. It is a national disgrace beyond anything you can imagine. Now I want to talk quickly about what it means to be a citizen, because I think most Americans, and especially the immigrants who desire to come to America, take their citizenship and hold it in high esteem. They desire more than anything to achieve liberty, freedom, the pursuit of happiness. Citizen is a person owing loyalty to and entitled by birth or naturalization to the protection of a state or nation. You can't have that protection, and you can't have a state or nation without borders. It's clear that that's what defines countries and nations around the world, on this earth. A citizen is a resident of a city or town, especially one entitled to vote and enjoy other privileges there. Our founding fathers set up a system based on a constitution where our citizenship has not only privilege, but responsibility. Great responsibility. Even a responsibility to hold each other accountable, and especially the responsibility to hold our government representatives, our federal representatives, accountable. You have to understand that the Minutemen are not about people coming across the border. The Minutemen are about petitioning for a redress of grievances from our government, holding our elected officials accountable for an egregious, deadly, despicable, repugnant violation of human rights along our borders. We want to change in Washington, D.C. We want to change in policy. We want our borders secured. We want our immigration system reformed so that it's not so arduous and oppressive to immigrants. Streamline it. Welcome people from all over the world to this country. Welcome them and have a respectful way that they can come in, protect them at our borders so that they can enter this country with dignity. Our citizenship means that we have that responsibility. Our civic duty is to say no more to our elected officials. We are not going to stand for this anymore, as I did in 2002 when I bought a small town newspaper in Arizona and declared enough is enough. The citizens have petitioned their government. We've testified before Congress. Law enforcement, residents, and other representatives, local representatives along the borders felt abandoned by those elitists in Washington, D.C. who said, we know better than you. We understand the problem, but we're not going to protect you. And we're not going to protect the immigrants. So our civic duty comes with our rights. Along with our rights comes our duty to stand up. You know, we have laws, and again, our foundation of this country was based on the collection of rules imposed by authority, those who gave authority to create those laws. And civilization presupposes respect for the law. The great problem for jurisprudence is to allow freedom while enforcing order. This is about law and order. It's about orderly immigration. It's about ordered society. And that's all we're asking for. An orderly system that protects not only the citizens and the immigrants, but also protects the potential immigrants from being exploited and abused the way they are along our borders. And that abuse does not come at the hands of any U.S. citizen. So why should anyone care about border security and illegal, unauthorized immigration? I'm going to take this out. I like to move when I'm talking. It's important. Why should we care about illegal immigrants? After all, a majority of them are only coming here for economic opportunity. Again, because they are not been provided those opportunities, especially in the case of Mexico, where we have the most serious problem. I wish that in Mexico and throughout Latin America that citizens had the opportunity to petition for a redress of their grievances and to demand economic opportunities. But because of things like a failed free trade agreement known as NAFTA and other agreements, it's destroyed the economies and the workers' rights throughout Latin America and in other areas around the country. Now, something must be seriously wrong, again, for citizens to stand up and do something as radical and as extreme as taking a lawn chair to the border with a pair of binoculars and a cell phone and saying, we're not going to take it anymore. Now, you have to understand that when we took those lawn chairs and binoculars and cell phones to the border, it was as much about observing and reporting suspicious activity to the proper authorities. But more importantly, what we were going to do and what we've achieved was to expose the incompetency and dereliction of duty on behalf of our elected officials in Washington, D.C. It was to embarrass them and to show you, America, about the tragedies that are taking place on our border. That's who the Minutemen are. They're not out there hunting migrants or chasing people down. That's absurd. And some of these radical and absurd accusations that we've harmed people on the border, or that we've even, I think irresponsibly, some local community leaders said we may have killed people on the border. That is absolutely absurd. When we're an organization that stands for the rule of law and order and are pro-law enforcement, pro-security, it'd be pretty hypocritical of us to go to the border and take the law in your own hands, would it not? Because that's not who we are as a nation. It's about a failure of government. So what has us so concerned then? Because remember, most of the people, as you'll hear, are just coming to work. Yeah, most of them are. And most of the people entering this country illegally from nations around the world only want economic opportunity. The problem is that it's bred crime. And it's now become a criminal industry, a multi-billion-dollar industry in smuggling drugs. And now the drug dealers realize they can smuggle human beings and become modern-day slave traders. And they can then engage in the sex slave industry and force women into prostitution. And they're making egregious profits. What has us so concerned? Environmentalists and many of the people that live along the border are fed up with the environmental destruction of our national parks, our national forests, and private property along the border. Something that attracts immigrants to this country, the privilege of being a private property owner, which is rarely given to anyone in any other nation state around the world. The drugs are out of control. Now, a lot of the people, I'm not saying the people that are here, but there are forces in this country, a lot of people are very concerned about securing the border because their profits are going to be cut off. Their livelihood will be cut off. And a lot of people, frankly, are afraid of the cost of their drugs going up. And the deaths in the desert. How can this nation and we as people and citizens of the United States allow hundreds of people to die on our U.S. soil every year and die a horrible death?